Oh my God. What the fuck? Bro, he did not put that in there. I'm saying it. Anyway, this is the Toyota War. How this truck took down an army.
This is a Soviet T-55 main battle tank. A 40-ton, hulking, crawling mass of pure violence.
Oh, God.
In operation since 1958, the T-55 battle tank is designed to be efficient, easy to use.
Oh, God, fucking tankies are gonna nut so hard.
And capable of delivering severe devastation to its enemies, quickly and without mercy. A veteran of over 20 wars and still deployed today in over 50 countries, the T-55 has proven to its enemies across the globe that it is an effective machine of combat. Swiveling atop the T-55's chassis is a 100mm cannon capable of firing accurately at 12 kilometers per hour. Whether it is standing still, hidden in the shadows, or bounding over yet-to-be-conquered terrain, nothing will escape its wrath. With 500...
I don't understand the fascination with tanks. Why? Autism. Literally. I don't get it either. Like, I think... Like, I like trains. I think trains are sick. But I've talked about this before. Trains are sick because they do commerce. Trains are sick because they, like, provide important infrastructural support. Trains can move people from place to place. They do it efficiently. It's awesome. Tanks, on the other hand, are just like, they're guns. They're bulky. They're big. They ruin the infrastructure. They're a destruction machine. I don't like it. I personally don't like it. I find them to be lame. Straight up, I'll say it. I find them to be shitty. I find them ugly. They don't go fast. That's true. It's always just cutting edge technology. But you like mechs? No, I'm not even like a big mech guy either.
Diesel-fueled horsepower at its disposal, the T-55 is capable of reaching 50 kilometers per hour when unleashed upon level terrain, getting you to the front line to change the course of war. 4 inches of welded...
I mean, it literally is just a cannon, dude. They were like, instead of fucking pushing this cannon with like infantry out in open battle, why don't we strap the cannon on top of a whatever the fuck you would call this, on top of tracks that literally make it so that you can just go through most terrain with a shit ton of armor, so the people that are managing the cannon don't get fucking sniped. Yeah, that's it. And cannons have obviously been very important in 1453, the end to the Byzantine Empire and the rise of the Ottoman Empire as the Fatih Sultan Mehmet took over Constantinople by utilizing cannons. So, you know, it was big. It was important. And imagine tanks as Ottoman cannons on wheels. Does that help? No, it still doesn't.
Steel enclose its operators in a fully pressurized compartment, so robust that it can even survive nuclear warfare. It is brutal. It is efficient. It is reliable. It is unstoppable.
I don't know if I'd say tanks are reliable.
That is, unless you're
Nor would I say unstoppable.
driving this.
Fucking
This
Toyota
is a
Land
Toyota
Cruiser, baby.
Land Cruiser. A 1.5-ton machine of, well, transporting little boxes around, taking you down a dirt road, and generally getting you where you need to go. The Toyota Land Cruiser was designed to be efficient, reliable, easy to drive, and most of all, never to be used as a tool of...
Oh, can you stop a tank? I don't know. Ask a fucking 18-year-old orphan born in fucking Gaza. No matter how many fucking layers of armor it has or even a trophy system, turns out tanks can stop, as a matter of fact. Or at least can be rendered immobile, which all of a sudden turns it into a fucking $35 million mound of metal. So, yeah.
death and destruction. From its inception, the Toyota truck was never meant to be a veteran of war. Its frame was not built to carry weapons. It was just a simple, well-made platform for ordinary people. Its history, though, would sing a different tune. In January of 1987, atop the warm sands of the African country of Chad, an armored convoy of T-55 tanks creep through the city of Fada, their cannons vigilant, imposing the threat of their payloads to anyone who dared oppose them. Their opponents were underfunded, underarmed, and likely to lose the war before it began. But as those menacing tanks stalked slowly through the streets, the breathy roar of the Toyota 22R engine would be the last thing they would hear before total annihilation. This was the war, not won by jets.
Literally technicals, dude. This is like an entire era leading up to this era of drones was defined by technicals
and tanks, but by ragtag soldiers riding in pickup trucks. This was the Toyota War.
For most of human history, wars have been fought over natural resources. Whether it was with sword, gun, tank, or bomb, the weapons of war have always been tangible. But in 2023, we live in an era where wars are fought over a different resource. Information.
What?
Your information.
Oh, it's a fucking
And
ad.
that's where
I was like, what is he saying? Like, what? In 2023, wars are fought over information? Yeah, dude. That's why that's why Israel is desperately trying to wipe out Gaza so they can get to all the books. That's why they're blowing up the libraries.
where today's sponsor comes in, Surfshark VPN. Wait.
Listen,
Don't
I'll give
skip.
him that.
I promise you're going to want to hear this. Whether
I'll
you're
give him
driving
Ethical
your
Reacts.
sports car
I
really
don't know this
fast or slipping into bed with an unknown stranger, you would never dive into those unknown depths without protection. What the fuck? Because it's dangerous out there. Look, we here
Ethical
at this
Reacts,
channel
Ethical
spend
Reacts,
a
Ethical
lot
Reacts,
of time
Ethical
online,
Reacts.
researching little tidbits, diving into the dark sides of the web. That's why I always have my VPN on when I'm digging through the internet searching for, cool videos and pictures of Gordon Murray with cat ears. And there's really no better protection than Surfshark VPN. It protects you and your computer from all the creepy crawlies on the internet, and it even lets you pretend like you're in a different part of the world. Why would you do that? Well, maybe you were in Chad, the location of today's tale. In 2018, they blocked social media access for the whole country, meaning if you were on vacation there, you wouldn't be able to connect with friends and family, or watch a SQUIDD video when it releases. Look, in an era where social media platforms are facing more and more scrutiny from governments,
I love going to Chad as my holiday destination.
Surfshark VPN can protect your access to Facebook, Instagram, Grindr, Tumblr, whatever you like. Surfshark is even the only VPN to give you unlimited access on as many devices as you want, all on one account. Sheesh! Netflix doesn't even do that. That's a damn good deal. Look, today, we are all at war, and your enemies know your location, your browsing history, and what kind of naked people you look at. They have the advantage over you. Take it back with today's sponsor, Surfshark, by clicking the link down below. Use my promo code SQUIDD and get 3 free months and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And hey, even clicking the link helps this channel, which helps feed my cat.
Yeah, what
You
the
wouldn't
fuck
want
was
Yuzu
that?
to starve,
What does
would
he
you?
mean? Like, what kind of porn are you looking at, dude? Odd. Anyway, whatever.
Back to the show.
A weird way to advertise a VPN. Okay, let's continue.
Bolting guns to dinky little pickup trucks is not really anything new. In fact, it's sort of a staple of underdog militaries when they have to stand up to superpowers. Today we call them technicals, as in they aren't
The superpower of Libya.
technically supposed to be used for war. The term technical is new, but the concept has been around for, well, as long as there have been guns.
I mean,
In the
he's
19th
right. He's not wrong. It literally is the fucking. That is what every militia group utilizes.
17 Ukrainian War for Independence, Nestor Makhno, leader of the Ukrainian Black Army, invented a horse-drawn carriage with a machine gun strapped to it. In World War I, the French were bolting water-cooled machine guns to Ford Model Ts. They figured, hey, it works on airplanes, I bet it would work on these things too. Machine guns were fired from Willys Jeeps and Chevy trucks as they bounded across the desert plains of Egypt during World War II. These makeshift, highly mobile, not quite tanks, made for the perfect light cavalry. The world after World War II changed in a lot of ways, though.
War never changes.
Wrong. War definitely changes. From World War I's miles-long front lines and deep trenches, to World War II's corner-to-corner fights in city streets, to the harrowing, slow-paced hide-and-seek in thick jungles and swamps of Vietnam, helicopters would replace horses, jets would replace piston aircraft. War became the place where nations would puff up their chests and show off their newest technologies. And then, shit got really scary. Supersonic fighters, machine guns, radar-guided missiles, and of course, nukes.
Do you plan to talk about the genocide happening in Congo anytime soon, or is that a topic not popular enough? Yeah, I'm secretly not covering the genocide happening in Congo because it's unpopular, which is precisely the reason why I'm watching a YouTube video on a fucking Saturday about, you know, the Toyota War, a topic that everyone considers to be the most popular. Everyone is always like, oh, dude, when will you cover the Toyota Wars?
A little Jeep with a machine gun was no longer much of a threat. All of this fancy new murder technology was fantastic, but it was expensive. Like really, really expensive. A single radar-guided missile can cost more than a new Dodge Hellcat, which means the only teams capable of deploying these fun new tools were the world's superpowers. And boy did they love deploying them. As military technology ramped up, the world's biggest players dropped more bombs, shot more missiles, and exerted more influence, confident that those that they were subjugating would not have the manpower or the budget to stop them. They were wrong. Kicking off in the 1970s, front lines were being drawn in the sands of northern Africa. A highly trained military man named Muammar Gaddafi had recently staged a coup and became the leader of Libya. Gaddafi now had access to a bunch of oil, which meant he had a lot of money and a lot of very powerful friends. But of course,
a lot of very powerful enemies.
Gaddafi wanted more.
Well, what is the question?
This may come as a shock to you, but you know, oil is pretty important, especially in the 1970s. It was essentially black gold. And when you're sitting on a mountain of it, well, the world's richest nations are either going to give you a bunch of guns to defend it, or give your enemies a bunch of guns to take it from you. The United States sent Gaddafi their proudest national export, machine guns. France would teach their army to fly helicopters, and the Soviet Union sent them T-55 tanks. Gaddafi took those tanks and machine guns and used them to become the most powerful man in the region. Eventually, he told the United States and France to kick rocks, and he buddied up with the Soviets. Probably because they happily bought all of his oil and didn't ask a lot of questions.
As opposed to the United States that normally asks a lot of questions when they want to buy your oil. Famously, the United States loves asking questions when buying oil from the likes of motherfucking Saudi Arabia. Famously, they hate it when you're not gay enough for U.S. pink washing operations. They're like, oh man, please, I can't believe it. Oh, I'm getting the oil ethically from you. Or the Iranian Shah famously, fair. Anyway, let's continue.
Gaddafi had become the king of his hill. The problem was, those Western nations he pissed off had nuclear weapons. And so did the Soviets. So did pretty much everyone except Libya. And without nukes, Gaddafi knew he was only one wrong move away from some Western nation coming in and...
Oh my God, he's doing Hasanabi principle, Hasanabi principle, Hasanabi
liberating
principle.
his people. Libya had...
Wait! No fucking shot! Wait!
And liberating his people.
Oh my God. What the fuck? Bro, he did not put that in there. Hasanabi doctrine, a guide for nation building. Rule 1, get nukes. Rule 2, do not give up your nukes. Rule 3, if you're accused of having nukes, drop everything and immediately. Drop everything immediately and find some nukes. Oh my God. Oh, he put hostile in the subtitles. Let's go.
Libya had all the money one could
I mean, he is making a video about fucking my favorite machine, so that makes sense.
ever want, but they didn't have the key ingredients for nuclearization. Luckily, the neighboring country of Chad
You should skip that fucking ad. Wait, what? No, ethical reacts, man. Ethical
was
reacts.
mineral rich, and at the time was going through a civil war. Gaddafi would hatch a plan that might sound familiar to some of my American listeners.
I think Gaddafi was more powerful when he was hot. And when he got older, much like Leonardo DiCaprio, he became less hot. So people started going, wait a minute, why are you fucking 25-year-olds or 25 and under? It's like kind of messed up, aren't you? You kind of look like Jack Nicholson now. You shouldn't do that. And he lost all of his power as a consequence of that. That's what it is. Like, he was a victim. He, was a beneficiary, and then later a victim of being hot and then not hot. You know, he relied too heavily on his pretty privilege.
He claimed that the Chadian people needed to be liberated from something evil. And in order to free the people of Chad, Gaddafi would order his troops to seize control.
Do you think young Gaddafi would have been a Hasanabi head? Absolutely. And has nothing to do with ideology and everything to do with how indecipherable his framework is. Like, he 100% would have been, but then also a hater at the same time, simultaneously.
Of the Aouzou Strip, an inhospitable strip of land that was the border between Chad and Libya. A piece of land that also just coincidentally happened to contain some of that uranium everyone was talking about. France, who Gaddafi had pissed off earlier, would supply arms to the Chadian army to spite Gaddafi. The ensuing wars went on for years, and by the 1980s, Chad and Libya had been fighting a brutal war for over a decade, with neither side really making any huge gains. Then, in 1982, the tides of war shifted. Chad got a new president, a strategic genius named Hasanabi, who is kind of the hero of this story, but not a good guy. You know, war crimes, political killings, the usual dictatory stuff. But he did oppose Libya's Gaddafi, and by doing so, opposed the Soviet Union. Since the enemy of my enemy is my friend, the good old US of A decided to overlook Hassan's war crimes and help the Chadian.
Yeah, famously, because the United States, once again, I can't stress this enough, hates war crimes. Hates it.
And people the only way they knew.
Especially this guy. I mean, when I think of guys who hate war crimes, I'm thinking of this guy immediately.
Now, with guns. It's always guns with us. In 1986, France and the US sent the Chadian people crates of weapons, promised them air support. Now, these were all well and good, but the most important thing they did was airdrop 400 Toyota trucks into southern Chad. Toyota probably isn't the first word that comes to mind when you think of war.
It is
Really
when I
shouldn't
think
be
of
the
war.
second or the third. I mean, look at them. They're so cute.
You could literally wage war with Siennas, honestly. I think it's a big L that they didn't drop Toyota Siennas, because them shits would also probably be able to fucking get turned into technicals too.
But like pretty much every automaker who existed during the 30s and 40s, at some point they were tasked with making machines of destruction. Toyota is no exception.
By the way, this is literally called the Toyota War. That's where my tough technical t-shirt comes, for those of you who don't know, is the power of the 4Runner, Land Cruiser, and also the Hilux, undefeated. Siennas are sick too. I drove a Sienna quite a bit back in the day.
In World War II, Japan tasked the company of Toyota with producing something to compete with the Allied forces' Jeeps. Toyota reverse engineered a Bantam GP and quickly created the AK-10. In the end, Japan went with a Nissan design instead. Undeterred though, Toyota would go on to create passenger editions that they at first called a Jeep. That is, until Willys Overland sued them to stop using the name. They then came up with a new name, and it was Land Cruiser.
Oh, so sick.
It's a Toyota Land Cruiser, and if you don't believe it, ask Ed Tron.
So
By
sick.
the time the 20 Series Land Cruiser was released in 1955, Toyota had become the household name in reliable off-roading. In 1968, Toyota began building the now legendary Hilux,
Oh.
and their Land Cruisers were being deployed around the world for humanitarian goals. Men in blue hats drove white Land Cruisers for the UN. They served as ambulances, police cars, and chased poachers
So
away
good.
from endangered animals. They were, a good thing. And they were everywhere. But by the 1980s, the world was becoming a pretty angry place. So that meant that inevitably, Land Cruisers would be used in war as well. Dozens of uprisings, revolts, and wars had
You can't fault ISIS for seeing a good quality product and wanting to take advantage of it. Okay? Anyone in that position would do the same. That's all I'm saying. Anyone and everyone would do the same thing. You see a Hilux, you're going to want to use it. It's got tremendous utility.
sprung up around the globe, and the Land Cruiser made perfect sense for the underfunded militias and small nations hell-bent on battle. First of all, they were cheap. A new tank cost upwards of $200,000 in the 1970s. That's about $1.5 million in today's money. A 1980 Toyota Land Cruiser was about 30 grand relatively. And even if you could afford the tank, you had to afford to keep it running. Fuel was expensive. A 500 horsepower Chariot of Death could burn 230 gallons of diesel in 300 miles. A Land Cruiser would sip just 20. Should your T-55 break down, you would need a trained mechanic and a fleet of service vehicles to get it back on the road. The Toyota Land Cruiser could be fixed by an illiterate drunk as long as he had a wrench and a screwdriver in his pocket. So the choice was pretty clear in the 1980s. If you didn't have a massive war chest, you could easily use Toyota's timid Land Cruiser to ferry your troops and supplies around.
True.
But then, the people of Chad thought, what if we strap some guns to them?
Legendary move.
When France
by
sent
the
the
way.
Toyotas to the Chadian forces, they expected them to be used as troop transports and ambulances. Instead, Habre's commandos bolted anti-aircraft cannons, machine guns, and light artillery to the beds of the Hiluxes and Land Cruisers. They made modern-day technicals. Their
Yeah.
reasoning was that these would be faster and more agile than the tanks being deployed by the Libyans.
Which was true.
These new technicals' main weakness, though, would be that they'd be vulnerable from the air. But luckily, the skies over Chad were declared a no-fly zone, so their only threats would come from land. These new Toyota Technicals were difficult to track from a helicopter, hard to aim at with a tank, faster than ground infantry, and were light enough that they didn't set off landmines. The first true
How
test
the hell
of
didn't they flip? Are you kidding me, dude? This guy just spent the first 15 minutes talking about how incredible Toyotas are, and you're still asking this question?
Toyota Technicals
It's a
would
fucking
be
Land
at the
Cruiser,
Battle
dog.
of Fada. Libya had taken control of the city with an iron grip of tanks, BMPs, and 1,000 soldiers. Piloting their Toyota trucks strapped with French anti-tank and anti-aircraft weapons, the Chadian forces attacked and retook the town handily, dodging helicopter fire, barreling over terrain and through city streets.
I don't know, but they look terrorist, which is ironic to say because technically they're like they're backed by imperial forces in this situation. But because they're brown and black, you're like, oh, they're fucking terrorists, which would mean that you're pro Gaddafi in this situation.
Flanking their enemies and unleashing rocket fire. The Chadian Technicals took down nearly 100 T-55 battle tanks and only lost 3 Toyotas in return. This victory changed the course of the war completely. How was it that a ragtag group of soldiers driving civilian vehicles defeated a mighty armored division so easily? Well, as it is in racing, as it is in war, pure power rarely defeats ingenuity. The unexpected victory at Fada would signal that the conflict between Chad and Libya was coming to an end. After Fada, Gaddafi found himself facing a tsunami. His mercenaries had revolted and joined the Chadians and their Toyota Technicals. Libya soon found those Land Cruisers on their doorstep when Chad retook the strip of land between the two nations. Unfortunately, that was one step too far for France. The conflict had...
For those of you who are wondering the belligerence in this conflict, the PLO was on the side of Libya and Gaddafi, and France and the United States, to a certain degree, were on the side of the Chadian forces. The side that won, I guess, but the Chadian forces.
grown from some small uprising to a full-on war, and France wasn't that interested in picking sides. The French Air Force packed up their jets and flew home, leaving Chad's legion of Toyota trucks and troops in the rain without an umbrella. Habre, though, hatched a plan. One of Hasan's best moves through the war had been to confuse and scatter the Libyan forces, so that the lightweight Toyotas could overrun small pockets instead of facing an entire front line. He did this with misdirection. He would amass a bunch of troops at a nearby village, wait for the Libyans to move towards the village, and then hit them with a Toyota-shaped hammer from the other side. And near the end of 1987, he amassed a large force in northwest Chad. The Libyans were feeling pretty good that night. With the no-fly zone cleared, they had the green light to fuel up their jets, and knew that with that air support, they were going to eat the Chadian Toyotas for lunch. This is a MiG-23, a variable wing multi-purpose piece of Soviet ingenuity with a full complement of missiles and guns. It was designed to deliver severe devastation to anything stupid enough to oppose it, and flying at Mach 2.4, that is more than twice the speed of sound, it can get in, deliver unparalleled devastation, and get out before breakfast. That is, if it can get in the air. The night before, the Libyan pilots had settled in for a good night's sleep, confident that in the morning they'd be raining hell on Hasan's forces. But they were awoken in the middle of the night by the sound of sirens, explosions, and the breathy roar of the 22R. Under the cover of darkness, while all eyes were on the troops gathering in the strip, 2,000 Chadian soldiers had geared up, hopped in their Toyotas, and crossed into Libya. Their destination—
They woke up because the top of the hour was upon us, and there was a 3-minute ad break. Well, you could go back to sleep as long as you subscribe for $5 or for free, you know what I'm saying? Straight up.
was Libya's primary airfield, about 200 miles from the border. The Libyans were so unprepared for this offensive strike that they had initially thought that the invading army was reinforcements. Instead, Chadian artillery shells rained down on their prized MiGs, and by the time the sun rose, Libya had lost the fight. Those 2,000 troops from Chad had decimated 70 tanks, a half dozen APCs, and 30 or so aircraft that made up the backbone of Gaddafi's air force. With his prized jets in ruins, and with, gentle encouragement from France and the US, the two sides came together to sign a ceasefire agreement. The war was over. The rebels of Chad had started out with 400 little Toyotas, and went up against an army 10 times their size. An army of 300 tanks, artillery.
Remember, this is more so a testament and power to Toyota, and not necessarily that like the anti-Libyan Chad coalition forces backed by the French were the good guys in the story. They were not.
Helicopters and fighter jets, and they won handedly. Official reports disagree, but by modest accounts, the Chadians only lost 1 soldier to every 8 Libyan troop removed from combat. Years later, as if to salt the wounds left by the Toyota War, when Muammar Gaddafi was finally removed from this world in 2011, they carried his casket out in a Toyota Hilux. Years after the Toyota War in Chad, Somalian warlords would adopt machine gun-toting Toyota trucks as their weapon of choice. The media would call these machines technicals, as they were purchased with technical assistance grants, money given to communities for infrastructure that was instead used to fund an army. Technicals would not just be for third world nations either. US Special Forces in Afghanistan were struggling to navigate the tight city streets and vast open deserts of Afghanistan. So they—
That is I was about to say, the disrespect of comparing the dog shit, light armor, soft top Humvees with the versatile Toyota Hilux is ridiculous, okay? Just saying. I mean, this is like
Afghanistan were struggling.
This straight up was a failure across the fucking board, and the other one was so good that they swapped them.
Navigate the tight city streets and vast open deserts of Afghanistan. So they bought Toyota trucks in Kentucky and North Carolina and shipped them overseas to help convey their troops in their ultimately fruitless occupation. Today, Toyota trucks are still deployed around the world for humanitarian purposes. The UN still uses them to deliver aid. Safari guides still rely on them to protect from lion attacks. But sometimes, human ingenuity requires that you make do with what you have.
They're so sick. They're so sick.
Without a massive budget or
both sides, dude. Both sides. Everybody appreciates it. Colonial powers appreciate it. Anti-colonial powers appreciate it. It's just the best. is so good. Is this paid promotion? No, it's just the truth.
Backing
I don't even have. I still do have a Camry. Okay, to be fair, I do have a dog in this fight. My longest running vehicle that I've driven my whole life is a Toyota Camry, and I still do love Hilluxes. I think it's the best.
world's
I love Land Cruisers. I love Hilluxes. I love Forerunners. Fuck it, even Tacomas, the American version, which is like I would say the most watered down, the most dog water version is the one that fits like American standards specifically. But even then, it's just
power. Warlords and rebels can find themselves atop a humble Toyota truck, and sometimes they can find themselves the victor.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching till the end. I am so honored that you would stick around and listen to the stories that I have to tell. Remember, if you want to protect your data, or just watch some
Ethical
content
Reacts,
from outside
Ethical
of your
Reacts, the
country,
Hasanabi head,
click the
Ethical
link down
Reacts.
below and give Surfshark
Whoa,
VPN
credit
a
card
try,
information leaked.
and
Whoa.
support the sponsors that help me bring this content to you guys.
Bunlar Gaddafi'nin cesedi iğrenç şeyler yapmışlardı. Evet.
Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, I like the vid. I was too harsh. No, the video doesn't necessarily dive into the politics of it at all. It more so just talks about how sick the Toyota Hilux is, which I agree with. What is this, bro? Why don't you fucking get one? It's literally like 35K. I don't want another car. I already have two. I don't have space because my brother takes my driveway and my garage usually at the same time.